Welcome back to my channel, guys. I want to first use this opportunity to thank all the persons who have already subscribed to my channel. The feedback has been overwhelming, and I really want to thank you for being so positive towards this venture. In our previous video, we looked at how to cut a straight skirt, and for this video, we're going to look at how to basically put the skirt together. So today we're going to be sewing, so take your tools out, your machine, whatever else you're going to need, thread and so on. And I hope you would have already cut your skirt, so that we're going to go right into sewing. And remember, please to like and subscribe. Thank you. In our previous video, we looked at how to cut a straight skirt, and this is the front from our straight skirt that we cut in that video. So we're looking at what it looks like when we fold it out. That's the front of our skirt, and at the waist area we had put in 2 notches. Now those 2 notches is where we're going to insert our darts. For a skirt, usually I measure the length of the darts 5 inches, but the top of the dart starts at a half an inch. So we fold right in the notch and we measure half an inch, and we pin and we taper that half an inch, taper it down 5 inches. So it's going to start off at a half an inch and end up at no inches, but it's 5 inches down. So it creates sort of a triangle. From the top of the dart to the end of the dart is 5 inches, and it's tapered from a half an inch wide until it's not wide at all, or 0 inches wide, whatever you want to call it. So it creates a triangle, and we do that on both notches. So we create 2 darts at the front of the skirt. I am going to pin. I suggest that if you're a beginner, after you have pinned down your 2 darts, that you baste and then stitch. I just stitch from pins, but if you're a beginner, you baste and then stitch. And then we put the same thing in the back. So for the back section, you're also going to have your 2 darts, and you will just pin the darts starting at a half an inch at the top. The darts should be 5 inches long, and we just taper from the half an inch wide down to no inches, as I've been saying. And you can just mark that with your tailor's chalk. Pin, then baste, and then stitch, depending on what level you are at. So we put those darts into the front. We do the same thing as I said before with the back. So you would have noticed that I've already put in my darts at the back. I've already pinned those in, and so we have 2 darts there at the back. Now we had folded a 2-inch fold, and those are the notches to indicate where the folds are. And you will notice that you have, after we open out our folds, after we take out the pins, that a crease is formed. You can actually iron the crease in there to ensure that it stays, to help to guide you with putting in the zipper and the slit and so on. So we're now going to put the 2 back pieces so that the right side of the skirt will be on the inside. So we're going to flip over one side so that the right side, I should be looking at the stitches for the darts, or the pins for the darts. And then my zipper comes in at the back. So that seam there, that fold there at the back, was for the zipper and the slit. Now the zipper that we're using is 8 inches long. So we're going to measure from the top of the skirt. We're going to measure 8 inches down. Or you can actually put your zipper on the skirt, as I did before, and mark it off where the bottom of the zipper would stop. But 8 inches is usually what we use for a skirt. And then from the bottom of the skirt, as from where the tip of the skirt, we're going to measure 7.5 inches up. I use 7.5 inches so that my slit will end at about 5 inches, give or take, when I'm finished, depending on my hemline. So I'm using 7.5 inches from the bottom. I'm going to make adjustment, you'll see, not 7, but 7.5 rather, from the bottom of the skirt up. So 8 inches at the top, 7.5 at the bottom. You can adjust your slit depending on how long you want it. the distance, that length between the bottom of where the zip would stop and where the slit would start, that is where I'm going to stitch. So my zipper would be at the top, my slit at the bottom, and the space in between, that is the length that I'm pinning right now. That is where I'm going to pin that and stitch. So I'm going to stitch the darts, I'm going to stitch that, and then I'm going to iron the back of the skirt and the front so that we have a more decent finish, and this is what it looks like. So now I have my darts stitched in, I have my stitch between the zipper section and the slit section, and I have my dart stitched in at the front as well, and my skirt is now looking a little nicer because it's ironed. And so we open up the back. Notice the 2-inch fold is still there, so we're pinning along the fold, the area that we're going to put the zipper in. So at the top where the darts are, that's where my zipper goes, and the notches are there to guide you how to break. So the notches would have been right at the edge of the 2 inches mark that we had done from the previous video, and so we're just breaking along that for the zipper. You have noticed I'm using a blue zipper so that you can see exactly what we're doing. So zipper at the top, slit at the bottom. So this zipper, to put in the zipper might be one of the greatest challenges. I'm going to put the zipper in from the right side of the skirt because that's how I'm accustomed to doing it. And if you follow me closely, it might not happen overnight and the first try might not be so great, but eventually you'll get it. So that side of the skirt will go slightly over, a little bit over the edge of the zipper, or where the teeth of the zipper, or that side of the zipper would fall, and we just pin. So we ensure that the fabric projects the same distance at each point on the zipper, or as much as is possible. I don't have a fixed measurement for this because I don't know if there is one, as I'm telling you, I'm telling you based on how I usually do it. And so we pin that down, leaving our projected piece of fabric not very long, maybe it's about 1/4 of an inch that we allow the fabric to project over the zipper, and we pin it down on one side of the fabric, and then we're going to pin the zipper to the other side of the fabric there. But on this part we ensure that the fabric is pinned onto the zipper so that the teeth of the zipper is showing. So we pin it as close to the teeth of the zipper as possible, but not to cover the teeth. So on one side it is covered, on the other side it is just slightly showing. You do not pin too closely that when you're stitching it runs over the zipper, because that will cause problems too. So you pin so that when I pull up my zipper, the zipper will close and the part that projects over will conceal the zipper just like that. And then I am going to now baste. You can baste it on the right side or on the wrong side where I'm showing you. So you go down, across and back up, down, across and up, and you do that once, and then we go ahead and we baste. I don't usually baste, but for you guys I will baste. I haven't basted anything in years. So I basted down, across and up, and look at that. Wow, that's my basting. Looks good. And those threads are loose so that you can just pull them out after you have stitched. So we have our zipper in, and now we're going to look at the slit. So basically I'm going to fold over this part where we had originally had the break or the fold, the crease in the fabric, and I am going to, from the point where my slit starts, I'm going to measure 3 inches up. So 3 inches up from where that stitch ends there, 3 inches from where the stitch ends, which is where the slit starts, and I mark that point across to the edge of the selvage, and then we're going to cut the top piece of the fabric at that point where I marked 3 inches above. But remember that you cut only the top piece of the fabric, don't cut both pieces, you cut only the top piece. After we have cut the top piece, you will end up with it looking like this. So the bottom piece is straight, the top piece is that you had folded over is now in two pieces. So I fold back the bottom piece, and I am going to, right where the selvage is, I'm going to fold it inwards to the seam, and I'm going to pin that 1/2 inch fold. So I'm making that fold right at the 1/2 inch, about 1/2 inch in along the selvage, and I am going to pin that 1/2 inch fold all the way down to the bottom of the skirt, and then I am going to also stitch it along where the pins are. Remember, you're a beginner, you go ahead and you baste. So after we have stitched it, it's nice like that, and then I do a zigzag stitch to stop it from raveling right where I made the slit, or if you have a serger, you can just serge that little area there. Put it back together, and then we pin the area there. We are pinning because we're going to make a stitch across there to hold the slit in place so that the fabric doesn't move back and forth where the slit is. So you can make your pins, you can make your stitch 1/2 inch or 1 inch below where the actual slit is in the fabric across there, and we baste and stitch. And I'm saying basting because I know some persons are beginners, and after we have stitched, we would end up with our nice seam like that, or a split like that rather. And so now we're going to attach the front of the skirt to the back of the skirt. Right sides inside, wrong sides outside. So we're looking at the darts because you are seeing the wrong side. You should be seeing the wrong side. Then we're going to join the sides of the skirts on both sides, and we're going to stitch down from the waist to the hemline, and then we're going to zigzag from the waist to the hemline. I'm pinning in 1/2 inch because I had measured 1/2 inch for the seam release in my previous video. If you had measured 1 inch, you would have to sew it in 1 inch, and then you use your zigzag to close at the corner there, as I said before. And now we're looking at the hemline. So I'm pinning the hemline 1/2 inch, folding it, pinning it 1/2 inch. I'm just going to stitch. This will not be the finish. We're going to actually hem the skirt when we're finished. So we're just doing a flat stitch to hold the seams in place there, and so that we don't have too much raw edges when we do our final hemming. And we stitch, and we end up with a nice flat stitch at the end like that. So the only thing left to do now is to attach the waistband. Now we had cut our waistband 4 inches longer than our waist measurement, and that's for a reason. So I'm going to measure off 3 inches, and that 3 inches I'm going to put at the edge of the side of the zipper that has the extra fabric folded over, and I'm going to fold it so that I have an extension of about 1 inch at the edge of that side of the zipper. Notice I'm putting on the waistband on the inside of the skirt, not on the outside. So I'm attaching the waistband. It is folded over onto the outside, but it's on the inside. The fold folds over onto the outside. And I pin there. You will notice now also that there's a way to position the darts and the seams. So the dart at the back, which is the first dart you're looking at there, goes to the side seam, and we pin there. And then the side seam is turned to the back, so it goes towards the zipper, and we put the waistband and attach. Then we go to the darts at the front. That dart at the front, the dart turns to the closest side seam, so it goes to the side seam that we just pinned to the back. So it's going to turn to the side seam, that's the top of the dart, and the other dart will turn to the other side seam, and we pin that. And then our side seam goes to the back to the zipper, so it turns towards the zipper, nearest zipper or nearest, and the dart again goes towards this side seam, and then this end that is left, we are going to fold it over the zipper, but we fold it at the edge. We don't leave any projection for this side. We fold it right at the edge and it goes over to the right hand side. And now that we have pinned on the waistband, we will now stitch along where we have the pins. After we have done that, we will now fold over the waistband. So pull out the corners, push out those corners, and then we're going to fold over the waistband. Now when we fold over the waistband, we are going to do a 1/2 inch fold at the top of that. We do a 1/2 inch fold, and then we fold it to touch the edge where it started at the waist, and we pin that. And we continue doing that right along the waistband. So we fold 1/2 inch and then we break it to touch the top of the waistband. And you will continue doing that right across the waistband until you have gotten to the other end of the waistband. Now you would have noticed, or you can even use your tape measure to measure that we would end up with a 1/4 inch and a half waistband rather. So after folding, we would notice that we would end up with approximately 1.5 inch waistband. Now at this end where we had folded over our extra inch, we still continue that, and so we'll have that 1 inch projected, and that is where our buttonhole will be placed, so that we can have a button at the back of our skirt. So when we fold that over, you will notice that it projects out about 1 inch from the zipper section of the skirt, and we would fold the rest of it as we were saying before and pin. Then you stitch along the pins, and you can also, if you choose to, stitch along the top of the waistband. So you stitch the entire waistband from corner to corner. Now that I have done mine, that little part that we were talking about at the edge there, that is where we're going to put our buttonhole. So I'm going to show you on my machine. I have a Singer heavy duty machine, and that's the buttonhole stitch. It looks like a buttonhole, so I have to change the stitch length to buttonhole, and that tells me the width of the zigzag stitch. You can probably put it about 3. And then on the switch dial, I have the buttonholes. Now we have number 4, number 3, 1, and number 2. So you can go in any order. You can go from 1 over to that middle one to 4, or you can go from 4. Usually I start at 4, so I'm going to just put my dial on 4, and then I'm going to come, and 4 will give me the length down on the right side of the buttonhole. So I mark the buttonhole on the skirt. You can use your tailor's chalk or crayon or whatever you're using to mark your buttonhole so that you don't run over the pins. You can do that, and you mark the length of the buttonhole depending on what size button you have. So the bigger the button, the bigger the buttonhole. I don't know the actual size that you make the button hole. I just know that it has to be big enough so that the button can go through it. So I'm going to start at number 4, which I usually do, and it will give me the right side of the zipper, the buttonhole rather. So I stitch down the right side of the buttonhole, and my buttonhole right here is probably about an 1.25 inches long, probably about 1 inch long, about the length. And then I move it to the second one, and that gives me the across. And so I am creating my little rectangle for my buttonhole. Then I move it to the third one, and that will give me the left side of the buttonhole. And the machine automatically goes back ways. It stitches back ways, and then I change it back to the one in the middle after I get to the end of that, and it closes out the buttonhole. So my buttonhole will look like a small rectangle. Now to cut out the buttonhole, I put a pin at the very end of the buttonhole, closer to the edge. I put a pin there, and then I use my seam ripper to cut between the left and the right side of my buttonhole where my zigzag stitches are. The pin will stop the seam ripper from cutting off the edge of the skirt, and after I'm done, I just move the pin and I'm good. Then I zipper up the skirt and I use the buttonhole to mark where the button should be. So I find the center of the buttonhole with a pin and I mark where the button will fall so that it fits nicely into the buttonhole when I'm finished. Then I'm just going to measure now how long I want the skirt. You can always make adjustments to the length, and I'm marking off my hemline because I'm going to have to hem the skirt and then give it a nice little press. So I can mark the slits together, put them together and fold, and so that they're even, and then I finish marking, and that's basically it.
I want the world to know. Right now?
Yes,
Yeah.
this can work.
Alright, so tell me what you want me to do.
Alright, so I wanted to show the
So I'm going to show the waistband.
yes, the waistband. Come over a little closer. Turn around. Come. Alright, so we can see the darts then here.
Oh, I want to show the dart.
Alright, turn the back now. And we see. So they must see the button. Then the zipper in so because of blue and and the blue, the way that, and then see have darts and darts. Alright, go out a little now. Go back out. Alright, stop. Little bit. Toops.